It's been said that the art of horsemanship takes more than one lifetime to master. If that is true, it stands to reason that the more senior members of the horse community are highly esteemed and regarded as those who possess the knowledge and experience we all seek to learn. Every year, the U.S. Equestrian Federation recognizes those of exceptional accomplishment with their Lifetime Achievement Award. The trophy is this Tiffany-designed sterling silver cowboy hat, worn by the truly legendary horsemen and women of our time. The tribute reads, "To those whose lifetime experience and accomplishments exemplify uncommon devotion to the sport of competition with horses, and whose equestrian career and horsemanship have continually elevated the sport's excellence." And whose hat served as the model for this coveted trophy? What horseman was so distinguished that the United States Equestrian Federation made him the symbol of this award? That man was Jimmy Williams, who spent a lifetime mastering the art of horsemanship. In 1989, he was the first ever recipient of the Jimmy A. Williams Lifetime Achievement Award. In this two-part series on Master Horseman Jimmy Williams, you'll see never-before-seen footage of Jimmy bridling up, riding, and sharing stories about his life with horses. The interview was done in September 1991, 2 years before Jimmy passed away. He was 74 years old, and he was at his home base at the Flint Ridge Riding Club in La Cañada, California.
This year and last year I've gotten more awards. Made me feel real good, you know.
The next year after this interview was one of his best years ever. No one could beat Jimmy Williams and his show-jumping horses. Along with riders Susan Hutchison, they chased their competitors down, winning all the major Grand Prix. Susan Hutchison was awarded the 1992 American Grand Prix Association Rider of the Year.
I told her to jump the first fence clean and the last one clean and all the ones in the middle and come home with the fastest time. And that's what she did.
Although Jimmy's claim to fame was in the hunter and jumper world, and he was well accomplished in dressage, his foundation was from Western riding. He loved working with cutting and stock horses, and all his show-jumping horses knew how to do Western rollbacks and reining spins. He thought that gave the horse an extra competitive edge, and it did. In the show open of Equestrian Nation, that's Susie Hutchison riding the famous show jumper Woodstock that Jimmy trained, and he's doing a reining spin.
I could school 5 hunters to every one stock horse. Stock horse had to be set on longer, they have to be quieter, they have to know how to work cows, and there's a lot more to schooling the Western horse. However, I use the dressage message. The method of dressage is the greatest thing for any horse there is. Footwork, it's kind of like a boxer, shadow boxing. They get to doing all these fancy things when they're working cattle that a horse don't get if you don't have cattle to work.
Jimmy started riding when he was only 3 years old, an early start to gaining a lot of knowledge he would share from his lifetime of riding.
The most important thing I think I learned was to use my weight influence to influence a horse. My weight influence. I think body language, I learned body language anticipating a young horse will keep you from getting bucked off a lot of times. And you see something, you ride and you think ahead, you watch what the land in the area or what you're going to be passing. And you say, well, when I get up to that tractor up there, the smoke coming out of the smokestack, this thing's going to do a real fast right turn. So I kind of screw down and get ready for doing that, and then what I do is I irritate that horse on the tractor's on the left, for instance, I anticipate the horse spooking to the right. So what I do is I irritate him on the right side and make him do a right lateral flex, so he don't actually see the tractor. The horse sees, they don't have tunnel vision. In other words, binoculars, like binoculars. They don't see straight ahead. From here to that camera, a horse can't really see everything that you're doing, or from where you and I are that far apart. They really can't see unless you move over to one eye or the other. The only way they can see is to turn their head one way, so they get, because they see this and that, but they don't see this. So you anticipate the horse doing that because there may be a lot of kids playing on the right-hand side of that tractor, or something that your horse might run into, or it could be on a bridge. The horse might fall over the side of the bridge, you know, the rail on the bridge. Like down in Arizona, real dangerous bridge you have to ride across. If there's anything there that might scare a horse, you have to be sure that that horse is looking down the creek away from whatever might spook him to whirl and go over the top of the bridge. So you have to get the right lateral flex so the left eye don't catch it. If you just get it enough flex to where you see the right eye, he can still see that thing with the left eye. You got to get him bent. So you put him in an arc in the neck, facing away from it, so you don't see it. And by the time you get past it, you straighten him up. Things like that. I always carry this sugar so I get the horse really familiarized with me, and they get to where they nicker when they see me, and they really want to. A lot of the professionals at the horse show say, why do you give your horse a reward before he ever does you a favor? And I said, well, by the same token, if you asked me for a favor and you didn't ask me very nicely, or if you weren't extra good to me, why I wouldn't do a favor for you. But being that you're asking, why, if a horse knows that he's going to get a reward when he goes in, he'll try harder for you, and when he comes out, why, you give him another one, why, that's his reward for trying. And if he don't try, you give him a reward anyhow. And putting the bridle on, you always take the top part, the crown part, and hold it up like this, and put the left ear in first. And if they don't want to open their mouth, you just run that lip up against that tooth, and they have to open their mouth. The smaller the mouthpiece, the more severe. And that's why I got a bigger mouthpiece, because I want to keep a horse to where that they're not afraid of the bit. And you want to be able to have them so the bars aren't hurt. You know, he's just a baby. He's only, this horse is only a 3-year-old. Okay, I'd like you folks to stay tuned in. My name's Jimmy Williams. I'm looking forward to ride a jumper over a big fence.
A good rider needs to learn to outthink and anticipate their horse's problems, so therefore they don't become problems. Never let a horse know what it can't do. A horse is like a house. It's no better than its foundation. A good rider is one that rides off of their reflexes.
Get a rag and wipe my boots off. I keep this. I ride with my snaffle bit until I get him to pack his head the way I want him to pack it. And then if he gets strong or anything. He hasn't rendered himself to me yet. A lot of excitement, but I take my time there. I want him right there. So, I mean, if he didn't respond, if I wanted to turn to the left, why I would take and move both hands down here, then I'd pick up on this and I'd give him a little yank with that hackamore. Get my, so you actually have to learn how, we call it combing your reins, how to go down and comb your reins and always have your most important rein, your correction rein. This really corrects him, and if it doesn't, I can reach down and do this and give him a yank or whatever. And you want to shorten him, you always reach over behind, run your hand down, and one's thicker, so you do it like this, or like this, or like this. Now, if I wanted to put his head clear down, step back just a little, why, this horse is just learning to eat sugar. Now, he's going to come around to me. So that makes it easy for him. Then when I irritate him on this side, look at his head. You think that don't mean something, huh? That's your reward for him. Teach him to look to the left and the right, and he knows already, see, that he's going to get something if he does what I want him to, you know? Seat bones is what gets sore when you go on those long rides. And a medical term for seat bones is ischial tuberosities. And I'm funny, I read it quite a bit, but I read some things that I memorize that makes me sound very intelligent, because I talk to a customer and they get to talking, you know, they kind of need somebody to talk over their head a little bit, you know, to impress them, because they're that type of person. Other people you kind of play a low profile with. And some people, you know, you have to, if you know horses real well and can understand them, it sure helps you with people a lot, you know, it's pretty good. So this lady, one time I was talking to her, and she was telling me that she was reading a book on training horses. And it was George Morris wrote this book, and so she was so sold on George Morris, and she was telling me how good he was, and I just said, well, if I were you, I'd have my child ride with George Morris. I said, you know, I'm not as smart as him, a little older than he is, and good thing I was born first, or he'd probably be in my business right here, you know. And I said, he don't even know what ischial tuberosities are. She was married to a doctor. And she says, what? I said, he probably doesn't even know what the ischial tuberosities are, and he probably doesn't even teach it. And I said, she said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, you go home and ask your husband. Well, he knows. Send him around and talk to me. You read too much. I said, you know, you're in the wrong chapter right now. And I just, you know, she said, well, will you write that down? I said, I don't know how to spell it. I can't write it, but I know what. But I said, just sound it out and you write it down. Ischial tuberosities. That's easy to do. Just write it out so you can tell him. It won't be spelt right, but you tell him you want him to tell you what they are. So the next day she came back, she says, well, that's nothing but your seat bones. And I said, that's right. Yeah, very simple, isn't it? She said, yeah, but how come it's such a big word? I said, ask the doctor. I don't know. But I read certain things, did in the Army too, and got me some stripes and stuff. First thing I'll do is wrap him around this jump here a little bit at a trot, so I get him flexing and listen to my inside leg, so he's bending. The arc of the horse should be the same as the arc of the circle you're making. You should have the horse's body just like I got it. Now I'm going to reverse and go the other way and change the arc on him. Now see, I got him bent around my inside leg. My left rein indicates the direction I want to go in. This rein here forces him to stay in the circumference of the circle without drifting outside. If I drop this rein, then he'd be loose and he'd kind of speed up. This is a regulating rein. It allows the horse to receive the bridle and stay in form rather than falling apart and losing his collection. Now I'm gonna do something that I haven't done before, but I built him up to do this. I'm gonna back him up and offset him a little bit, getting him handy in front. Whoa.
Next week on Equestrian Nation, part 2 of our series on Master Horseman Jimmy Williams.
And the hardest people to teach to ride is attorneys or these people that with the best education in the world. The higher their IQ, the harder they are to teach, because they're too busy, they got too much here, and they don't listen well because they're thinking about what they're going to tell you.
Jimmy schools his famous show jumper, Woodstock, with a bit that needs no bridle.
Hey, whoa, whoa, you son of a bitch.
Why is there never enough time to do things right, but always enough time to do things over? Silence is the only successful substitute for brains.
This is Jimmy Williams, a man who spent a lifetime mastering the art of horsemanship. Last week we showed you part 1 of our series on Jimmy Williams, and now in part 2 you'll see never-before-seen footage of Jimmy riding the famous show jumper Woodstock, and Jimmy sharing stories about his life with horses. The interview was done in September 1991, 2 years before he passed away. Jimmy was 74 years old, and he was at his home base at the Flint Ridge Riding Club in La Cañada, California. Jimmy says he learned the most from spoiled horses. A spoiled horse is when humans did something wrong or trained the horse poorly that resulted in bad behavior from the horse.
I think the spoiled horses I rode during my life from a child on, I think the spoiled horses gave me a challenge, gave me a problem, and made me work to find a solution for that problem. And in finding a solution for the problem, why a man has to relax his mind and forget about the problem. You get to concentrating, and it gives you a wider range of thinking, of things to use what might not work or what would work, and I would try it. And trial and error with spoiled horses made me learn to use different things that actually worked on horses that didn't need it. I mean, it was good for all horses. The spoiled horses, though, developed my mind to the point if I always rode a real top horse, a good horse, like people with a lot of money always buys the best horse. The kid never learns to ride anything but that nice horse. And I can take a child that's from a poor family and I have to borrow, beg, and steal for a horse for him to ride. That child will outride the one riding a good horse. May not beat him in the show ring, but can outride him and do more with the horse. And you have to have a lot of natural talent to figure out what makes a horse tick. And I think it takes spatial quality and spatial time, and you gotta really want to do it and you have to lower your IQ to really teach a horse anything. And the hardest people to teach to ride is attorneys or these people that with the best education in the world. The higher their IQ, the harder they are to teach, because they're too busy, they got too much here, and they don't listen well because they're thinking about what they're going to tell you, and they try to outfigure the teacher. And when they do that when they're riding a horse, all they're doing is messing themselves up and confusing the horse. All those brains they should just take and just be able to flush them out of the head and start over with an empty head and teach them basically to lower their IQ down to the level of the horses, which is very low. And people don't like to hear this, but this horse is a very smart horse for a horse. And horses are only as smart as the people handling them. And you see some poor horses, they stand around and they stare just like some people because they've never been taught anything.
And that brings us to Woodstock. He is the opposite of a horse that has never been taught anything. In 1991, when this video was shot, Woodstock was insured for $500,000. And Jimmy said the owners wouldn't sell him even if the offer was $1 million. The owner was the chairman of Samsung, and Samsung Woodstock was one of the greatest horses Jimmy trained. He was immortalized by Breyer Model Horses, who made a model of him.
I don't think that they'd sell him because they're pretty wealthy, and I'd sell him, yeah. Yeah, I'd sell him and give 5 ex-wives with him. Anyhow, he's worth $1 million if any of them are. Some of them are selling for $1 million today. Well, this horse, he responds to body language very well, and I could ride him anywhere without a bridle, and he follows the leg around, and you watch a horse's ear when whichever way you're turning, why he should have that ear back on that side. I mean, he should be listening out of this ear. If he isn't, you give him a little kick, you know. And if you want to stop, why, you don't have to say anything. You just kind of use your weight influence, and he'll back, and he'll stop when you want to stop, and he'll canter in a small circle and spin and do a lot of things and he loves pretty girls. There's one coming up there. See him put his ears up? He checked her. He didn't check her very good. You need glasses. She's not that pretty. And then if I want him to look up here at jet propulsion, he'll put his ears up. Look, see?
Luck is as good as brains, as long as it lasts. A smart man changes his mind, a damn fool never will. Stupid questions make more sense than stupid mistakes. You never know what you can do until you try to undo what you did.
Teaching the horse to bend his head down and come around left and right is something that Jimmy has all his horses do.
Actually, I got to doing that working with cattle, cutting horses. And I just automatically did what I did when I was training a horse. If a horse didn't want to respond to the right rein to go to the right, a green horse, a young horse, I'd use my right spur to draw him to the attention. That's called lateral aids, right rein and right leg. Diagonal aids are right rein and left leg.
And here's how Jimmy teaches the horses head and neck to come around left and right.
You put your irritation over here and you don't do anything except just irritate them. Pretty soon they'll get mad and they'll bite at it, you know. When they do, you got a cube of sugar right there in their mouth. And just give them a cube of sugar. And then you just sit there a little while they chomp on the sugar, and pretty soon, you know, you reach in your sugar bag and get your another cube of sugar. Take your thumb and go down here and irritate them and use your spur a little bit. And don't make any difference, whichever works, you know. And pretty soon, round comes the head. He's really mad at you. Would bite you maybe, you know. You got to be careful when you feed them the sugar. They don't. So it isn't long. 2 pieces of sugar will teach them to be very gentle about it. So instead of getting so mad, the irritation becomes an aid. An aid, a cue for them to get a piece of sugar. So I just cue them from then on after I irritate them. And sometimes you have to irritate them quite a bit, and you got to find a different place. Sometimes you have to work back towards the flank a little bit, you know, where it's a little thinner skin. And you got to find that sensitivity area. There's one place on each side of a horse about the size of a saucer, about 4 inches behind the cinch. And I saw a horse skinned at Dr. Ross's killing pen for dog food. And this veterinarian, this meat inspector, that veterinarians hate to be called meat inspectors. But when you're not a good vet, well, you make a good meat inspector. So there's several of them around. Anyhow, the thing is that that is a bundle. It looks like worms. I mean, it's a bundle of nerves right in there. Those Indians weren't too dumb, you know, when they rode, and that's where they put their feet, right there. I found out that I could take and teach a horse to spin and everything just by using the inside leg. Teach them to move to the left, to the right, stand them still, and be talking to a bunch of people and say, this horse has got a... I did this in Paris, France. The guy I bought Levius from, the Dutchman, about 20 miles out of Amsterdam. Why, this horse used to run away with him. And he used to put drawbridge on and pull his head down so low between his knees that he couldn't run away with him. So anyhow, I didn't know that. The veterinarian that vetted the horse, he wanted to see the reins, draw reins off, and the guy said, Emil Hendricks is a good horseman and a good jump horse rider. And he said, well, I can't hold this horse. Well, I'm going to come back to the pressure again. I was sitting on this horse and I saw Emil, and I rode the horse up there, and parallel to the group of people who stand there, and I said, Levius, you recognize that guy there? And I got my foot ready with my left spur, and he just ignored me because I didn't give him a cue. And I said, Amy will step out of the group just 2 steps. I want to see if this horse recognizes you. You know, it's a lot of malarkey goes along with this. So it's good showmanship, though. So Amy, he stepped out there, you know, and I said again, Amy will just stepped out of the group of people. Would you look and see if you recognize him? So I touched him with my spur, and he just put his head right around, and I taught him to put their ears forward too when they do that. He put his ears up, looked at him like that, and then I know I got a little place I touch him where I makes him do this, you know. I said, you recognize him? Yeah. So I pulled his head away, so Amy will come up and says, what did you do to him? He said, how'd you put his head down? I saw you talking to some people over there, and they said, you put his head down. He says, can you put his head down now? And I said, yeah. So I gave him the cue, and down went the head. He said, I had a hell of a time getting his head down. I had to use draw reins, he says, and everything. He used to run away with me all the time. How'd you get him to go without a bridle? I said, by stopping more than I went. He said, stopping more than you what? I said, well, I stopped the forward motion more than I went. I stopped, let the horse get some reaction time, back up, go forward, and stop. So I was stopping more than I traveled. And I said I just kept doing that till finally he didn't want to go forward. He just wanted to stop and back up because he'd get a piece of sugar each time, which he did.
At 74 years old, Jimmy shows off with his star pupil, Woodstock. He's riding him with only a small rope around his jaw for a bit.
I'm going to gallop him just a little circle right here and maybe wind him up a little bit. I don't want to fall off. He usually spins too fast. Hey. Whoa, whoa. Hey. Whoa, whoa. You son of a...
That was pretty athletic, though.
Yeah, I jump in the air. Too much lost motion. He shouldn't do that. He wants to play, see? You're going to get a chance to play in a minute. He's just too high. I have a little trouble staying on him. He's trying to buck and play while I'm spinning him. He knows better than that. If I had the supreme power to pick an age for the rest of my life and could maintain that age, I'd pick 50 years old. Well, I think maybe because at 50 I was having more fun than I had ever had.
If you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. Remember me with smiles and laughter, for that is how I will remember you. If you can only remember me with tears, then don't remember me at all.